Community Shield. Hello.
Community Shield.
Hello.
I noticed he's wearing a Barcelona jersey today as well. Then after all of this,
It is a Barcelona jersey. It's not a Palace jersey.
I thought it was
That would have been a touching tribute to your vanquishers at the weekend.
I should have said nothing. Because you probably can't see the crest, but
no.
Probably should.
Honestly, genuinely assumed it was a retro Palace jersey. But
no, it's a retro Romario Barca jersey. So,
but anyway, we'll be talking about Palace.
We will be talking about Palace and City later.
The two teams in focus today are two very interesting clubs. We have Palace and Man City, who've had a couple of interesting summers, and I think we have to rectify some comments we made about City last week. So we'll get to all that later. Sorry, people on TikTok.
I leave for 1 week. I'm gone for 1 week, and the house just falls apart.
But more importantly, Gary, me and you have written a couple of articles about our Premier League predictions. We're going to get Jimmy's Premier League predictions as well tonight. So I think because the season is starting at the end of this week, I think it's the appropriate time to talk about who we reckon is going to win, who's going to be in the Champions League, Europa League, Conference, who's the relegation fodder.
Yeah.
What is the shit show of a season we're about to see? And Jimmy, where can we get all these articles?
Well, we can get your predictions, which are wrong, and Gary's predictions, which are made of wrong, at statrdraft.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's lovely to see you all again. Lovely to have you with us this evening. As the boys said, we're going to be. I think it's great. You're right, John. It's the exact right time to make these predictions because it's our last chance to go in blind. After next week, there's going to be the first week. It's not going to determine the whole season, but it'll tell you who's in serious trouble early. So it's great that we're doing this now, and we're sorry we're doing it so late. But if you head on over to statterdraft.com, you will see posts by our Gary and our John making their predictions about who will win the league. Mine are not there yet. You can see those on statterdraft.com in 22 minutes. They'll be published. You can have a look then. I was keeping that one ready for you, but my
I like how you kept that in the tank.
Yeah, I came at it from a slightly different approach. But what we'll do is, I'll if you don't mind, boys, I'll leave you two go first, seeing as some of our readers will have seen them already, and I want to hear the rationale behind some of the craziness that has people throwing their poo at their phone screens.
Yeah,
who's up first?
That's some outrageous picks. Do we just get the obvious one out of the way and just say champions? Be done with it.
Yeah, it is Liverpool. Well, it kind of has to be, doesn't it? I mean, after the window that they've had, I know, like anyone who looked at them yesterday against Palace in the Community Shield would probably go, "Oh, they're very, very soft at the back," and I get that logic, I do. But in the last 24 hours, Palace have come out and said that Gay is up for sale. Liverpool have been sniffing for long enough. So it made sense that probably was going to come out after the Community Shield. I would expect Liverpool to be putting in a bid this week. And if that happens, then you can pretty much be sure that soft underbelly is gone.
I think Liverpool need a centre-back more than they need Isaac, to be perfectly honest. Like, even looking at it,
100%.
I was very impressed with his touches, his little balls around the corner.
Looks like he was strong yesterday.
He looks
from the off. He was strong.
Not even that. Like, Liverpool had firepower last year. They have firepower again. They're having just Mo Salah. Look, he was wank yesterday. Let's call a spade a spade. I think
he was, but if you look
at the retirement tour season where he still gets numbers.
And is it you guys like backing into the corner of not taking him in the top 5, like someone said a couple of weeks ago? Just going to throw that out there.
I mean,
you don't take. I'm telling you, not to go back on it, but you don't take Salah in the first. But anyway, I think, John, you're right. Centre back needed, potentially another defensive central midfielder needed. Gravenberch wasn't there yesterday because he was off celebrating the birth of his child. He is missing against Bournemouth for the first week because of suspension. Endo is good. Yes, there you go. Should have said nothing. Endo's not. He's a very, very good squad player, but I don't think he's someone who can play a full 90 minutes in there.
Let me throw an idea. Throwing at me during the week.
Get a centre back before, if the Isaac deal is on the table. Although it seems in the last hour or two, it's pointing to signs saying Newcastle are not going to sell. That he might actually stay this season with an agreement.
Yes,
that's in the last hour or so.
Yeah, the Saudi owners have come out and said he's not for sale. So
I like two mad ideas I've heard this week on the grapevines. One of them is your own one, Gary, about Isaac going after the Newcastle-Liverpool game, because there's still 5 days between that game and the end of the transfer window, and obviously it'd be hugely disrespectful to put on a red jersey and then play Newcastle his first game. Funny that you touched on Endo. It was thrown at me by a colleague during the week. What if you just played Endo at centre-back?
No.
He's not tall enough. And that's a ridiculous, probably sounds like a ridiculous statement to make, but your centre halves need to have a certain ability in the air to be strong. Particularly, Endo is great. Endo is a very, very good. He's very good at interceptions. He reads the game very, very well. He's a highly intelligent footballer. He can play centre half, but he wouldn't be strong enough to play centre halves for the potential Premier League champions.
If you long term. Do you know what it is? If you have a couple of injuries and you need a fella for a game or two to do a stopgap, fine. Like if you have a few injuries,
yeah,
I think they need the centre back more than they need the centre forward. Yep. If they get that, they're guaranteed to win the league. But I think even with the squad they have, with the momentum they have behind them, with the signings that they've brought in, because they've spent, but they've also spent on whether they adapt to the Premier League or not, but they're all high profile, high quality players. It's not like they've gone and plucked somebody from obscurity. They're all names that we would know. So I think tick that box. Liverpool win the league. Jimmy, you agree there? Gary, you agree?
I do, and I hate to be too expedient, gentlemen, but it's worse than that. We've given the same top 4. Our next 3 are all Arsenal, City, and Chelsea. In slightly different orders.
Different orders, yeah.
But we're all agreed on the top 4, and it's Liverpool, City, Chelsea, and Arsenal, because we have no fucking imagination whatsoever. But also, grass is green. There's talk of a big 6. They seem to me to be the big 4 for the last few years, and I don't see anything in the numbers that says that Liverpool are in any way weaker, that City don't stay there and not climb, that Arsenal don't drop but maybe have enough to stay in it, and Chelsea, wherever they are, they'll be there. So I don't think there's any disagreement on the top 4. However, as always, if anybody on TikTok or YouTube is listening to this and is screaming their club's name, please let us know so we can tell you you're wrong. Then it gets a bit interesting, right? And I mean, John, I'm going to come back to your predictions in a minute, right? Because they're not a million miles from mine. Gary, Spurs 5th and Everton 6th. Explain yourself, young man.
So, look, we all sat here having the chats last season about different predictions, off-the-wall predictions. I made a particular one about City being 4th, and you all said to me, I'm correct. I'm correct in the head. That's just not going to happen. City potentially could win the league, yada, yada, yada. Turns out I was practically right. The only reason I wasn't was a spectacular collapse by Forest in the last weeks of the season. The logic behind Spurs is they have momentum. They've momentum coming off the European win. Now, I know Champions League football will probably be a bit of a distraction for them, but I don't think that will be the priority. I actually think Champions League football will be deprioritised over league form, in the opposite to what happened with Ange last season in the Europa League. Okay, a lot is going to depend on how his signings come in and work in Thomas Frank's system. I think Paulinho from Bayern is a great signing.
Fantastic.
Yeah. I think that's an absolutely brilliant signing for the sort of system that Thomas Frank likes to play. He's a proper box-to-box. He's Premier League proven. He's quality. Didn't work out at Bayern, fair enough. But they still have quality in that team. Kulusevski.
I have a very simple question. Where do the goals come from?
So as of right now, that's a very, very tough question. That's a very tough question to answer. But the noise of Savinho coming in, there's talk of them going and looking at Wissa or Strand Larsen from Wolves as well. So a lot of this is dependent on business that's going to happen. Solanke is a proven Premier League goal scorer. He could get you 15 or 16 goals in a season. He's done it at Bournemouth before. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. Kulusevski should fit into this system in a similar way to Mbeumo at Brentford. Absolutely when he's fit. But I'm kind of judging this on the assumption that he will be fit. You don't know what's going to happen there, but he could potentially be a bit of quality there as well. It's not beyond the realms of possibility, but I will say that in the last 24 hours, I've switched my 5th and 6th predictions around.
I just think
What?
Yes.
Everton at 5th.
Yes.
Oh my God.
From the top.
Yep.
Who haven't won a game in preseason.
It's preseason.
Gary, I'm just going to stop you. Your Spurs prediction when they have nobody in the squad who can score 15 goals, let alone 20, and Everton who are Everton. So explain yourself.
So again, look at this. Well, look at the numbers for the second half of last season. The last 10 games of last season, Everton were top 6 in form when Moyes came in. They've strengthened since then, right? They've brought in Tierno Barry from Spain, who could potentially be a 10 to 15 goal season striker. Grealish has looked like that's a done deal for a year. That you don't know what's going to happen there. It's very, very hit and miss. They're rock solid at the back. We've spoken about this. Their back 5, including the goalkeeper, Pickford at the back, is absolutely as good as you're going to get in the Premier League. They are. It's just a question of what they can do going forward, and they have strengthened there. They have still got quality as well in those positions. And I think what happens with Everton this year is what happened with Forest last year. I think they make a run.
You're even getting rinsed, and even a comment on YouTube is just like, nah, man.
Question, and it's similar to John's question about where do Spurs get the goals. Who are the 5 extra teams that Everton beat twice this season that they couldn't last year? Because we're talking about a gain of 21, 20-ish points to get from where they finished last season to the top 5.
So how many games did Everton win last season?
Last season, they won 11 games, and Newcastle in 5th place won 20. So that's 9 extra fixtures. That's a minimum of 5 teams that they beat twice. 4 they beat twice, and 1 they beat once more than last year. Or 9 teams they suddenly beat better. I don't see that kind of gain, Gary. I don't see that gain out of anyone for a start. One exception, and it's a team that both myself and John have in our 5th and 6th.
Yep.
And it is the unthinkable. It's Man United.
Yep.
I have them 5th. John has them 6th.
I have them 6th. I have Villa in my 5th. I think they did their big spending I'll give you my rationale on Villa being 5th. I think they did their big spend basically in January. They know they still have a few quid in the bank to go essentially get whoever they want instead of Rashford. So I do think they'll pick up someone in the coming weeks. That kind of behind Watkins centre forward. They've done it. They did their business, as I said, back in January. Unai Emery is a very, very good manager. They have the Europa League this year, and I think they're the kind of team that gets momentum from that, kind of like they did last year with the Champions League football. Or what was it? They were in the Conference League. Sorry, whatever. European, just having European football, that bit of extra momentum. I think they're the kind of club who goes. They haven't been in Europe in so long. Like they thrive on it rather than break from it. Unai Emery is a world-class manager, is probably one of the greats in terms of Europa League Cup winners. He's a very underrated manager, and they did their spend last January, so that squad has had 6 months ahead of all the others in terms of that integration. So I have them 5th, and then I have United because of their problem last year.
Incredible attacking line bought. Incredible.
It's the last year they had no firepower. Last year you were looking at a front line of a Rashford and a Garnacho. One didn't want to be there, one's a whingy little baby. You had Højlund, who, bless him, as much as he tries, he's the little engine that could. Like he tried, he just not up to it. Xerxes, Anthony, spinning top, Ahmad, young fella improving. They went and put 200 million down on the front line of proven quality in Mbeumo and Cunha. They're not going to score minimum under 8 each. I'm going to say 8 to 10 each. Easy. You bring in a striker like Sesko. If that clicks, you have Bruno's numbers who'll go up. You'll have that attack and Tried who'll go up. You have Ahmad as that right wing back who's going to clean up on assists. It's the problem at United right now is the goalkeeper. If they get a goalkeeper, they're fine for 6.
The goalkeeper and the defense in general. That was their you're right. Part of United's problem last year was the lack of firepower. You're 100% right. And yes, they have addressed that with Mbeumo and Junior. That's fair enough. Sesko coming in is we don't know.
We don't
know what's going to happen there. But you would expect him, hopefully. If he returns 10 goals in his first season, that's a reasonable expected return for someone as young as he is coming into a new league from where he's coming from. So, hopefully it does happen for him because I actually quite like it. The problem with United is at back still, because they've had problems at both ends of the pitch last year. If Onana is still in goal, and it looks like as much as the Donnarumma rumours don't look like they're going away.
26 million as well, by the sounds of it, which is
go do
the salary will be massive though. Coming from Paris, the salary will be absolutely huge.
Doesn't matter,
Gary. On United,
if that happens, then it is a different conversation. I will admit that, but I don't think it'll happen.
Can I ask, just for clarity, because you've kind of gone a little bit less numbery as we go down the table, and that's cool. We all have our own way. If you want to see mine, hit refresh in 8 minutes. It says mediocrity: Brighton, Palace, and United. Can you put a number on mediocrity?
As in
is
place?
That bottom half?
That's so. When I say mediocrity, it's below where you would expect to finish. So Brighton would expect to finish probably in the top 8.
Yeah.
I would possibly put them 10th, 11th. United, with the money that they've just spent, you guys have them 5th and 6th. I don't think they finish. I think they may finish 8th or 9th. And Palace, as good as they are, I think they lose Gay before the start of the season, which will leave them very soft at the back. I think the European football shenanigans, which we'll get into in a minute, have actually really, really hurt them because they haven't been able to plan for the new season. So as much as I would have loved to have put Palace in the top 6 or 7, I just see everything that's going on outside of the football having an effect with them. So I would expect them to finish probably 9th, 10th, 11th. So kind of my 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th would probably be Brighton, United, Palace.
Every year. Palace finished 10th to 12th every year. That's what they do.
Yeah, but after winning the FA Cup last year, the work that Glasner has done, and I think Glasner is an absolutely brilliant manager. I actually would put him in the top 3 managers in the league. He is that good.
Okay.
In my opinion, for what he has achieved at Palace, who are traditionally quite a small club, probably going to get rinsed for that. But he has achieved fabulous things at that club. He really, really has.
Yeah, 100%.
I think he was at a bigger club, he would absolutely do even better things. But the news that came out today, them not being able to plan for the season, then potentially being light at the back because of Gay moving on. You've got to remember he's club captain as well, so he's a big, big presence in the dressing room. That's going to have an effect.
Well, Jimmy, who was your other Europa League team? Because you had United 5th, I have United 6th. Who's your
so my predictions were remarkably close to yours in the top half, John. The only difference is I have Newcastle 6th and Villa 9th. I think Unai Emery is a very, very good manager. He is a very, very good Europe and Cup manager. He is a very, very good manager at everything except the league. I'm not saying he's bad at the league. I'm just saying I think Eddie Howe is very comfortable. I know there's all of this fucking talk of they haven't got the transfers and Isaac doesn't want to be there and he does and he doesn't. They're going shopping today. If they get players, they get players. If they don't, it's still a pretty solid squad. It's not like they've been picked apart by another team that I'm going to talk about in a minute.
No, but it seems
and you know who that is.
It seems like a very unhappy place there at the minute.
Yeah.
And also, they didn't really do much last season with the squad they have, with no additions. They're not going to do much.
They finished 5th. I'm dropping them from 5th to 6th because I don't think we're going to see them implode like others.
What am I talking about? They won the fucking Carabao Cup and all last season.
Yeah, they won the Carabao Cup and got Champions League. They had a good year.
Apologies,
but I don't think they're going to go as good again this year. I think 6th is fair for them. So I've got 6th Newcastle, 7th Brighton, 8th Spurs, because that shit is just not going to stay where it is forever. 9th Villa.
I have Brighton 7th and Spurs 8th. Yep.
Yeah, and then I go Villa 9th, reversing with Newcastle, and then Fulham 10th, because I think they've got just about dirty, cheating, backstabbing tricks to finish in the top half. But after that, is the team I want to talk about next, which is a team who don't appear in either of your predictions, who are probably having one of the worst preseasons off the back of one of the best seasons they've ever had, have the big distraction of Europe like no other mid-table team has, are transferring in fuck all, and they've been absolutely rubbish, like 5 games, 1 goal. It's Forest. I'm putting them 11th this year. Mm-hmm. I think I'm actually being kind.
Yep.
It's all gone wrong. Good players, great manager. They've had their moment. I don't think we're going to see it again.
Nope.
And the other team I think that are going to suffer a serious implosion, and I noticed there was a lot of overlap in predictions as well for relegation. Yep. It was the universal wisdom of the 3 up plus Wolves, but I'm going to throw Bournemouth into the mix there. I think they every day we hear that another one of their big names is leaving. Nothing is coming in. I think if you look at most of their high performers last year, with the exception of Kluivert when he was well, and Semenyo when he was well and not suspended, most of their performance last year came from the back. It was Huijsen, Kerkez, and Sinisterra. All gone. Is it Sinisterra? Is it Sinisterra I'm thinking of?
No, it's another lad who signed for PSG, but I can't think of his name.
Oh, you had Zabarni gone to PSG.
Zabarni. Thank you. Sorry, Bournemouth fans and PSG fans and Mr. Zabarni's family.
Kepa. 4 of the back 5 last year, including Kepa.
Yeah.
And Kepa. Yeah, like that is an absolute excavation of your defensive line, and I don't think Bournemouth are the kind of bedded-in Premier League for a long, long time team to have the money.
It's an interesting one there because everybody's talking about Brentford, and it's because they have an Irish manager and because they've sold 2 big-profile players. Bournemouth have sold big. Wolves have sold their best 2 or 3 players every summer for the last 3-4 years, and that's caught up with Southampton all those years ago with the likes of Mane and Virgil and stuff like that. It's going to catch up to Wolves eventually. I fully agree with Bournemouth, and this is where, I'm sorry, I have to do it for a minute. This is where I think Fulham actually have a very good chance this year of moving up the table again. All of the teams that you would call in that middle pocket space of, let's say, 10th to 15th, they've all been absolutely ran through this summer. They have all been raided.
Mm-hmm. And obviously Palace hadn't until now for obvious reasons. They didn't know which.
And Gahey and Eze are probably their 2 biggest players, and they'll be gone in the next week. And if they both go, I expect Mateta to follow out the door by the end of the window, and that would decimate Palace. Whereas Fulham have kept their squad, apart from Willian, who, he retired. He's retiring.
That was never going to be a long-term prospect. Like,
no, that's
37, 38.
That's it. Like, so they've kept their squad together. They have 2 players for every position. They do their business late in the window, as I explained last week. I think that they're looking at literally 3 or 4 signings who can improve the ceiling of the squad. So whether that's a young player that can get better or an old player in the Willian mold at the end of their career who has a high standard and a high ceiling, who can bring up the quality in the dressing room. I think they have the ability. The only players that would have been in danger to go would have been Robinson. 3 players: Robinson, Bassi, and Muniz. Muniz, who they've essentially been curating for the last 3 or 4 years, who is this close to popping off as a big time forward. Atlanta have come in with a decent chunk of change to go and buy him. Fella who's scored single-digit goals for the last 2 seasons, but you can see the quality when you're watching him. Atlanta have essentially come in with 40 to 50 to take him. So if he goes, they'll go shopping. But his numbers haven't been there historically. It's they're buying the potential of what's you can see is coming when he's on the pitch. Do you know what I mean?
But there is a bracket between 8th and 13th, and that's where Fulham still live.
Yeah,
I don't see them breaking into Europe this year.
I don't either. I think if they get, put it like this, there's 2 or 3 targets that they're linked with, and if they get them, like there's a guy called Frank from Shakhtar, Brazilian 22-year-old winger. Wow, I've gone and looked at a bit of him over, a few of the little clips and stuff that you can find over the last couple of days, and anything I've seen. Again, YouTube can do you dirty, but Shakhtar are known for creating very good young Brazilian talent. Then they're also looking at Raheem Sterling and Zinchenko. So if you get one
both
of
good guys, apart from Sterling, Zinchenko
backup centre forward, can play wide.
Cost too much for what you get back. In salary, he costs too much for what you get back. What did Arsenal get?
It's Fulham. Different.
Yeah, they'll
But
play
he's
him
out,
like they
he's
play
out of
Willian.
contract,
But
though, isn't he? He's out of contract, so
they will terminate his contract.
yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
So
Well, that's
like,
this
if
week's Fulham
he wants
update.
to play, they'll get him on the cheap.
So I think they have a chance of being. I think they have a chance of being in that space where they could be the one that can challenge for the European spots. But I think they'll inevitably fall short again.
Yeah.
Forest, I agree with you. They're going to slide down the table. Their form from the last 10 games of last season is going to continue into this season. Bournemouth are in major, major trouble unless they go out spending the big money that they have in their bank account.
Just on the Bournemouth point, because I don't see them finishing top half or doing anything major this year, but I don't see them being in a relegation scrap. And I take the point that their back line has been decimated, but other than Kepa, all of those players who have moved on, like Hoyson, did anyone here know who Hoyson was before last season?
No.
I certainly did. Like
last season was also their best season by a great distance.
No, I get that, but I suppose my point is that Bournemouth have a history of taking players and developing them and bringing them into the team. There's every chance that they do that as a replacement for Kirkes, as a replacement for Hoyson. I know the replacement that they brought in for Kirkes is a lad from League One in France. I think they signed him from Lille. I can't remember his name, but I know we spoke about him previously.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of
to do with 4 players. It's to do with 5 players in one summer. If it was 1 or 2, fair.
Yeah, there is a risk there. I get it, but I still think they'll be safe enough. I reckon they'll be safe by February. So I don't see them being in a relegation battle in the last months of the season.
My rationale on how I did this, right, because it's just been published. But my rationale on this wasn't like I was going to sit down and work out who's going to beat who and who's going to have how many points and who's going to have how many goals, what players, and yada, yada, yada. And then I thought, you know what? Let's keep it much more simple. Let's look at last year's season and who's likely to hurt and push them down. Because you can't predict who's going to improve. Not really. You can't predict who's going to pop off. I know you boys both have a love of external transfers and someone who's just come in from the Bundesliga or the fucking, I don't know, Latvian third division or whatever. But you can't really predict who's going to be Højlund and who's going to be Haaland. So what I'm looking at is who's likely to hurt more. And I think Bournemouth are top of that list for me. Forest are there. Villa, for the reasons I explained, because I think Emery's eyes are on bigger trophies. But we don't know. If only there were some way to take a deeper look at 2 teams.
1 million miles away from mine. I'm looking at it here. Sunderland,
you see it now, yeah?
If we look at the relegation, I think we're all agreed Sunderland and Burnley. It's just a question of whether who's 19th and who's 20th, right? Yep.
Absolutely.
All agreed there. Burnley and Sunderland, they're out the gap. I think the question is what between Leeds, Wolves, and other, and who is the other? Like Gary, who was your prediction? Sunderland, Burnley, and
Wolves. I think you could make a case for Leeds as well. My thinking behind that is Wolves will just be that bad that Leeds will be okay. That's kind of where I'm going. I think, but like Bournemouth will probably finish 15th, I would say, and Leeds 16th. That kind of area and whatnot. I think Brentford. I think Brentford are in trouble. I think I would put Brentford more in trouble than Bournemouth. They relied an awful lot on their firepower last year, and Norgard in the middle is going to be such a miss. Yeah, such a huge
I wonder,
miss.
Is there maybe as we're looking at these, right? There's a trap I don't want to fall into, because the 3 B teams, right, which is Bournemouth, Brentford, and Brighton, all appear to me, a lady who knows little of such things, to be playing the same game, which is find them young, play them for a couple of years, sell them for a fortune, and that's how you stay financially alive. And I think if you look at all 3 of those teams objectively at the start of each season, there's a lot more focus on what's left than what's coming in, because we don't know what's coming in, and it's the unknown quantity. So I might be being a little bit unfair to Bournemouth to say, well, Brighton are going to do the exact same approach, but they're going to finish 8th, and Bournemouth are going to be relegated.
See,
the reason I put Bournemouth below Wolves is because Wolves haven't been hit as hard at the back. It's defence that'll get you relegated.
Well, the
lack of goals will hurt. But who have they lost? Aït-Nouri.
Aït-Nouri is the loss at the back. But if you look at those 3 teams between Bournemouth, Brighton, and Brentford, right? you're right. That I suppose that setup where they buy them young, develop them, and sell them on for big money has worked for them in the past. But that relies on a really, really strong coaching staff in there, which Bournemouth have and Brighton have. Brentford have changed that as well as a lot of their squad. A lot of their big players gone. Two of their big players last season, and Keith Andrews coming in. I know that they have a tradition of promoting from within and whatnot, and that's fine. But no disrespect to Keith Andrews, he's done nothing to inspire confidence. Enough confidence that he can take a squad having lost two of their biggest players last season and take them to the next level. I think they'll be safe. I don't think they're getting relegated. But that's mainly down to, I think, Sunderland and Burnley just not being anywhere near strong enough, and Wolves having lost too many of their star players last season, and they struggled at that point even with that.
Like, I have Burnley going down. I have Scott Parker down to be the first manager sacked. Sorry about it. Jimmy knows why as well. I have a little bee in my little bonnet about Scott Parker, but it's fine. He might have relegated a team very close to my heart, goddamn. But Sunderland, they're spending money. It's not the right money. I think Bournemouth, Brentford, they're in the same space. Jimmy, I get your point about the Brighton, the B teams, the way they do it. The difference is with Brighton is they haven't sold half of their starting 11 in the summer yet. That's what Bournemouth have done, and that's the difference. Gary, I know.
Apart from 2 years ago when they sold Caicedo and McAllister.
That's still two. They didn't sell, like Bournemouth, 4 of their back 5.
It hasn't been as drastic, and I think that's why Bournemouth take the hurt. But I'm just keeping open the possibility that I'm judging them a little bit harshly.
No, I get
I'd love
that.
to be wrong.
I think that's why Brentford as well will be okay. They have a tradition of hiring within the structure, the way the club is structured. The players that are there know the structure of the club. That's going to be a continuity factor there. All well and good. Losing 2 players rather than your whole backline, you can figure that out. They did. Everybody thought the same last year when they sold Ivan Toney. You know what I mean? Before that, it was Toney. He replaced someone as well. Very good striker. Ollie Watkins was the one before that. So, I think replacing Mbeumo is going to be fine. I think Brentford will be fine, but I do get that there's a pocket of teams there. I suppose your Leeds, Leeds, I think could stay up because of the Ellen Road effect. At home, that feral home support, which can drag you over the line and suck the ball into the goal at 95 minutes when you need it. But they're in the mix. Brentford, Bournemouth, Wolves, Leeds, West Ham. West Ham, I think they're all in that pocket. And if you're the team who has a bad run of it at the start, you know what I mean? Like, West Ham could be a top 10 team, or they can be a bottom 5 team. And it's a momentum swing for them because in preseason, Jared Bowen and Nicholas Fulcrook have looked very interesting, but at the back they look awful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Nicholas Fulcrook, it might finally be time for the Giants centre forward.
Anyway, you don't think Callum Wilson's going to be the answer?
No.
Callum's there to
Agreed.
To keep Evan Ferguson from getting scared and tell him stories, going to bed, isn't he?
Evan Ferguson's at Roma. We've been through this, Jimmy.
Oh, I get so very easily confused by that young man.
Evan Ferguson is playing in Italy.
He's playing in Italy, and by all accounts, is tearing it up in preseason.
Speaking of which, actually, before we just move over, I want to give one moment of appreciation before we jump into the GBC. The Ballon d'Or shortlist has come out. 30 players on the list, and there's one player I think people need to put some respect in his name, and it is Scott McTominay. He has made the 30-man Ballon d'Or shortlist.
He has not.
Yes, he fucking has.
Yep.
Player of the year in Italy.
I love that. That's brilliant.
Player of the year in Italy.
Brilliant.
Championship winning team. Season of a lifetime. Do you know what? After all of the flack he's taken over the last 2 years or 3 years from an online part of the Man United fan base, I think it's one of those ones of, go and eat your humble pie, because there was always a baller there. And that's why managers like Mourinho, kept playing him. That's why all of those managers kept playing him for a reason. But anyway, I just wanted to give Scott McTominay his flowers. Ballon d'Or list is out, and if you told anybody 2 years ago, or even a year ago, Scott McTominay would have been on that short list,
I'd have shot you for insanity.
Give your head a wobble.
I'd have shot you in the street like a mad dog.
Yeah,
I'm going to give another little prop here while we're on the list of the Ballon d'Or nominees to someone who absolutely deserved it because he shone for 38 weeks on a team that, as much as John doesn't like them, achieved a lot last year, particularly in their Champions League performances. Declan Rice, not a man who traditionally Irish groups are very complimentary about, but he really was outstanding last season.
Very good.
At every level. He deserves to be on that list. It's not as saucy. It's not as saucy a selection as Scott McTominay. And I think those 2 goals against Spain probably started something in him. And I would love to see the stats on how many players leave United and then get to that kind of level. But Rice, I think, deserves the shine that's on him right now. But I don't think he wins it.
No, but it's just like there's a few names there that I'm just happy to see. There's a few obvious ones.
You would have to think Dembele. If I was a gambling man, I would say...
Well, it should, Dembele. But they're going to give it to Lamel because that's how you sell fucking newspapers. Or social media clicks nowadays. I apologize. Anywho, Gary, take us into the dark, scary corner and scream numbers in my face.
Yes, the GBC. Last 2 teams before the season kicks off. Timed that well. And we're looking at 2. Actually, this is actually quite good given the news that's come out. That we're looking at these 2 teams.
So many layers. It's beautiful.
I know. You would swear that we knew what was going on in the world of football when we timed it. But we're looking at City and we're looking at Palace this week. So yeah, I don't know. Do we want to kick off with City? Do we want to kick off with Palace? Who do we look at?
Can I make a petition that we put City last, seeing as the Premier League won't?
That's as good a reason as any.
See, if the FA won't put City at the bottom of the table,
put City we'll put them bottom of the table. I like it. Love it. Fine. So let's look at Palace then. So your draft pick for Palace then is Munoz. I think he's your lock at in defence. Finish.
Gary's having an off night between your Everton prediction, your Spurs prediction, and now this. Gary, your week away on holidays rattled your brains, kid.
I'm gonna. Well, that's it. We'll see. We'll see who you think is the alternative. But if you look at Munoz's numbers last year, he was the only Palace player who averaged. Eze also got above the 10, but for 12 points a game in defence across 37 games, he's as solid a bet in defence as you're going to get. But John, I'd love to hear who your alternative is.
I mean,
it's Eze, isn't it?
It's Eze.
Why is it?
It was always going to be.
Why is it Eze?
Attacking output. Also, when you look at our modelling as well, in terms of all the other actions, the gameplay involvement stuff, he's going to be he is one of those players that is going to improve. He's so important to that team. Great. Now, if he leaves, I would have Munoz next up. But I'm picking him, and I think we'll talk about the wild card in a second because I think we'll.
Do you know what 700 is?
What?
Do you know what 700 is?
What?
It's how many more minutes Munoz played than Eze last year.
Yeah,
it's Munoz all day long. High minutes, high attacking involvement. Bizarrely, incredible defensive stats. 12 points per game, 37 games played, and nearly every minute of football. And what you said yourself at the top of the broadcast is quite true, John. There's a good lump of lads who are likely to be leaving Palace now. He's not one of them. Eze's got his bags packed, I'd say. Munoz is probably going to stay where he is. I think that's going to be a one-man team next year, and I think it's him.
Yep. Well, if there's a second man, it's Dean Henderson, but we don't really.
I like Henderson too.
Yeah. He's a top 6 pick in the goalkeeper run.
Yeah, he is, and he's guaranteed to play. But Jimmy's right. I mean, Eze, I was just trying to work the maths out because I was looking at it as well. He played 3 games less, but 700 minutes less than Munoz did last year. If you remember, for the first 10 weeks of the season last year as well, Eze was nowhere. He wasn't drafted, or he was drafted and then dropped pretty quick because he wasn't playing. Now, we came on towards the end of the last season, that's fine, but Jimmy is right. He's out the gap now that they know that they're playing Conference League football. I don't think he sticks around. He probably ends up at Arsenal. That's probably where he ends up. So it
I,
is.
I feel bad for Palace
Oh,
though
then-
because of this Europe bullshit. Like,
Yeah,
I feel
it's
really
total
bad
bullshit.
for
They did-
both
they
Palace
did their
and Forest. I feel.
I mean, it's essentially it's an administration thing that because your man who was actively your man John Textor isn't even involved in Palace. He was actively selling the shares. So by the deadline of March 1st, where there's a multi-club model, the owner has to put their shares in a blind trust so that they're removed from the decision-making process, so that there could be no financial doping between the clubs and all this kind of stuff. So at Palace, he hadn't put his shares into a blind trust because he wouldn't have had the ability to sell his shares if they were. He does not have any ownership in them fucking anymore. Let them play. Sorry that we're not Man City, that we can pay for the biggest lawyers in, like, from a fucking sporting point of view. They did their thing. Leon
Yeah.
were relegated because they ran their house like shit. And what? Because Nottingham Forest want to sue everybody left, right, and centre because your man that owns them is a tantrum level fucking toddler. Like, you're ruining the integrity of the fucking sport, in my opinion. They won their cup. The prize for winning the cup was entry into Europe, and because what a traditional historic team collapsed because they were in financial ruin because of how they were ran, and because another fella with a big wad of money goes, "I want this math." Palace then suffer. They did their job. Fuck off, UEFA, as far as I'm concerned. It's bollocks.
I love
Yeah,
it. It's taken us
can't disagree with it.
25 episodes, maybe 30. I haven't counted lately to finally get to the point we can say, which is the theme of the week. This week's Sesame Street in Football is brought to you by the phrase, fuck off UEFA, sponsored in no small part by Mohamed Salah. We won't go there, but we all saw it, and we love it.
Yep.
We
love
do.
it. But, okay, look, Palace, yeah. Gary, who do we avoid at Palace?
I think you're avoiding Sarr. I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me off the top of my head. I'm trying to find them there. But this lad flatters to deceive. I had him last season, and he is very, very, very up and down. Trying to find his numbers. So, Jimmy, you can fact check me here.
I've got you, bro. I've got you. 7.5 per game, 283 over the year, 38 games played. But again, like Eze, we're missing 600 minutes.
Yeah.
And minutes played are a metric with Statr, guys. You can't get there on super subs this year. There's points going for minutes played.
Yeah,
so
and I remember
absolutely see it.
I think he got about 8 goals last season in the league, which is not a great return for forward. He had a purple patch of about 4 games where he scored 5 in around January, where I actually picked him up and kept him. But he flatters to see if I think you stay away from him. There's so much better options out there for forward line. He probably is someone you pick maybe in round 9 or round 10. But because he is a household name and because he has a bit of history behind him when he was at Watford, I think at one point United were looking at him while he was at Watford. So he's one of those names where you kind of look at it and go, oh, he could probably do a job for me. No, he can't. He can't.
He can't. And it's a shame because looking at his numbers, what this points to, right, and this is pure like stats whisperer stuff, but his clearances, his aerials won, his tackles are all much higher than most forwards. So this is a young man who's putting in the effort and getting back to help out his team. The problem is if he's doing that, he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, which is putting the ball in the net.
Even that his job is in that front three. Remember, the other 2 components are Eze and Mateta.
Yeah, he's never going to shine beside the 2 of them.
Even that, he's the bag man.
Yeah. But that's not going to score your fantasy points. Like you can't fault the lad for his effort. He has the heart.
No, he's a stunning player. Love,
and he's very, very good. But he's just not scoring enough fantasy points to be drafted.
He's not the one I would avoid.
Who's your avoid?
Who's your avoid?
Adam Morton.
That's interesting.
He do you know what? I'm going to say it, and this is going to get me in trouble. He seems to be one of these players who's the. Do you remember?
I know exactly what you're going to say, mate.
These midfielders that like
the second coming of Jesus Christ.
The English press sees them do a couple of good games, and it's like, oh, he's got the touch, the
class.
Could be our version of a Perlo or this, that, and the other. And he kind of doesn't do much. Like
he's very good.
He plays nicely.
Yeah,
I get it.
He played 20 games last season. He picked up 6 points per.
Yeah, he's not. He's Wharton was one of those players.
He did have a long injury last year. I get that. I like watching him as a player, but he kind of is just There.
Overhyped by the English media because he's got 3 lines on his shirt.
But you know what? He's one of those fellas, right, that he's been looked at by all the big clubs. Nobody's pulled the trigger yet. And I think he's going to be one of those ones that the trigger will never really get pulled on, maybe. You know, he'll kind of do
Jared Bowen. Kind of like the Jared Bowen.
Yeah, but without the same...
without the same ceiling. Yeah, I agree with you. I would agree. The only reason I didn't put Wharton in there is because he will most likely play. He'll most likely play 38 games or 36 games, injury depending, obviously.
But Wilfred Zaha was another one. He was good at Palace.
Yeah.
If you met me, because he had 1 year at United as a young fella, nobody ever really came back in looking. There was years of, ooh, maybe he'll go to Arsenal. Ooh, maybe he'll go to Chelsea. And then it took until too long for him to actually leave, and he ended up going to Turkey. And I feel like that's going to be another career like that. I think he's good. I think he's good for Palace. I think he can become a Palace stalwart, but stay there. I think going to Chelsea, United, and Liverpool, and Arsenal, City, he'll be another Jack Rodwell. He'll be another Ross Barkley. He'll be another lost midfielder.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think at best he's another Jordan Henderson, and that's his ceiling if he gets there. But I would doubt whether he can actually get there. I would agree. Ross Barkley is actually probably probably the closest comparison. But he was one of those players where I'm kind of looking at, do you not pick him or whatnot? The only reason I didn't have him as an avoid, and I actually haven't scribbled down and I have Sarah in instead of him, is he will play more games this season than he did last season. So there's potential for him to move on from where he was last year. And he's still young, so it's possible. It is possible.
It is possible. I hope it happens.
But I don't fully see it. I think Sarah is the one because he flatters to the scene far too much. Your wild card though is Lacroix. Lacroix. How do you pronounce it? I don't know. Lacroix.
Max.
What's his first name? Yeah, Max.
Yeah,
Max.
Maxence.
Maxence
fucking Max. Right?
Maxence.
It's Max.
Mick Lynch.
Second reference.
Crystal Palace defender Mick Lynch.
Max. Just
one
Max.
of the sexiest footballer names. One of the sexiest footballer names we've had in the Premier League alongside Giroud. But anyway, look again. If you look at his numbers,
though, FYI, he has a bad mustache.
His name, just the name. His numbers were solid last year. He played 35 games. He averaged just under 10. I think if Gay goes, he's probably going to be the main man at the back. And he looked very, I know it's only the Community Shield, but he looked very, very good yesterday in parts against a really, really strong forward line from Liverpool. He has to be someone you would consider in the later rounds of the draft to fill out that defence.
Do you know what? I understand that. It's Jean-Philippe Mateta for me. He's another one of those players who with all the striker movement that's going around the Premier League at the minute, I'm shocked, appalled, and disgusted that somebody hasn't, like, Man United, I thought would have been the ones that should have gone from Arsenal, would have been the one. Arsenal would have been, look, they got Gyökeres, fine, everybody's happy there. He would have been perfect for Chelsea. You know what I mean? He'd have been perfect for Chelsea. He had the only team he couldn't maybe gone to would have been Liverpool and City. Everybody else would have been an improvement for.
Yep, agreed.
Gone in for him, so he'd be my wild card. I totally respect Max Lacroix being an option, but for me,
I still think there's time for Mateta to move on. Just with, and it's probably a discussion for another week, but there's probably a little bit of a striker merry-go-round that's going to happen before the window closes, and I think Mateta is potentially in that mix. But
Isaac goes here, Watkins goes there.
Potentially,
goes here, and Mateta goes
more of the mid-table lads moving around as things close up. That makes sense.
So, but I can't argue with it. To be fair, Mateta, I love Mateta. He will always have a special place in my heart, as Jimmy knows.
Still one of the greatest finishes of a draft season.
Never miss an opportunity, Jimmy.
2 seasons in a row.
One of
woke up on the last day and picked De Bruyne. and it didn't work.
Also, it's one of those ones that I think that is one of the top 3 season endings for the Toulouse come Statr leagues over the last decade. Top 3.
Yeah.
Also, the Chris Smalling on goal after the season ended, I think, was my personal favorite.
Have you noticed the pattern here? Have you noticed who's on the wrong end of all of these?
That's still one of my favorites.
That's the funny bit.
Any other teams left, or should we wrap it up? We've looked at 19 teams this year, lads. Is that not enough?
I suppose we should look at 115 teams. More, no?
215, no?
No, 115.
All right, okay. Sorry, when the numbers are big enough, I lose count.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, we lost count, don't we? Who are we talking?
We did.
Look, just take points off Everton. Take points off Everton again, it's fine.
Well, that's probably the only reason that they won't finish 5th. But anyway.
Who's up, Gary?
Anyway, City are up, and I believe there was a bit. I believe there was a bit of a to do on TikTok about City last week.
Yeah, he got a few pelters. I mean, he got the number wrong, but the sentiment and the information is correct.
He got it wrong. So I would like to, on Dean's behalf, express sincere remorse at the claim made on this podcast last week that Man City spent €1 billion in the preceding 12 months. Dino's lawyers have informed me that he was confused, and the number he was thinking of was their $2.6 billion spend since they were founded in 2008. Moving on.
Also, it was 735 million when you include wages and salaries in the last 12 months. But anyway, who are we picking, Gary?
We're picking Haaland.
We are.
Good talk, guys. Wrap it up. Let's go home.
It's the easiest fucking discussion going. It's the easiest one to pick. There's no reason to not pick him. He was 14 points a game last year. He's probably going to top 30 goals again this season. I know he didn't last year, but he will.
Score again.
Yeah, he's gonna. Look, yeah, it's him. It's him all day long. It's as simple as that. And it gets a bit tasty when we start talking about the avoid stuff.
Yeah.
So it does kind of get a little bit tasty. There's two people.
We're all going to have theories here.
We are all going to have theories here because there actually, I think, there's a couple of players who you look to avoid. And I think there might be a bit of overlap between players you avoid and players that we think might be wildcards. But for me, the avoids are, number one, it's Rodri. But don't think it, let's, again, context, he's injured again. He is injured, right? So does he play as many games as you would expect him to play, as he would have previously? Probably not. Do you draft him in the top 5 rounds, which you probably would have done had he been fit going into this season? No, you don't. I'm not saying that you don't draft him, but you don't draft him before round 6. The other one, though, the more controversial pick for me, is Guardiola.
Another tip on Gary's drafting board for later this week.
Yep,
Guardiola. Go on.
You're putting him on an avoid list.
Again, context. You look at his numbers last year. And
I see where you're going with this. Go on.
Yeah. So context last year, his numbers, if you look at just the numbers for last year, he is a top 4 round pick, maybe?
Yep.
As in the first 4 rounds of the draft.
However,
he is going to he will move position from where he was last season. He will not be that up and down the left flank, left full that he was last year. He's moving into centre half.
Yep.
So he's not going to be able to do what he did last season and get the points that he got last season, scoring all of those 35-yard belters.
Yep.
It's just not going to happen this season for him.
That's Ait Nouri's job now.
Exactly. That's Ait Nouri's job.
Yeah, I see that. I will point something out, though.
Jimmy was looking very lost and confused until Ait Nouri got mentioned.
No. The classic defender stats are strong for Guardiola.
Yes.
Like, again, block shot, aerial, clearance. He's really good at the back as well as all of the shots on target points, right? I do think there's a bit of a rotation issue. And I do think he's going to play fewer minutes. And I don't think he's going to, he finished 20th overall in our sim last year. 20th. That's not 20th defenders. I mean, 20th overall. I'm not sure where he is next door, but I know he's one of the most expensive defenders. I can see why you would avoid him. But also, I don't think that if he drops back very far. I still think he's a top 40 asset. So he might move from your 4th round to your 6th. But I wouldn't avoid him completely. I would avoid Phil Foden.
No. I would agree. Yeah, I would agree.
Get away from Phil Foden.
Well, actually, so again, I've looked at 2 wildcards and Foden is one of them. Foden
I knew this was going to happen.
Foden, look, Pep Guardiola has gone out of his way to make sure that Phil Foden does not get a chance to perform. He knocked in 3 or 4 in 2 games at the end of the season before last, simply because KDB was injured. No, it wasn't. It was when Haaland was out, and he played him out front as a 10, where he's outstanding. He's not going to do that. That's where Foden's at his best. There's no place for him in that team.
Yes, there is.
There just isn't.
There is. There absolutely is. I think, and John, I think, is going to agree with me here. Foden plays for City what Palmer plays for Chelsea, and he has the ability to do it. He will be that roaming player who nobody picks up. He runs it.
He takes Kevin De Bruyne space in that midfield.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
Yes,
he does. He absolutely does.
That's where he plays. Jimmy, he had a let's be honest, he had an absolute stinker of a season last year. He did. There's no maybes and not. The year before, brilliant. The year before that, very good. Last year, outlier. If a quality player like that isn't going to have 2 stinkers back to back, otherwise he's done. Otherwise he's done, and that boy ain't done.
He's not.
He's not.
But the other thing to consider:
Rico Lewis, Manuel Akanji, and Mateo Kovacic. All 3 of them played more than Phil Foden last year.
Yeah.
Pep don't like him.
That's not what it was.
No, Pep does like him. Pep does like him, because if Pep didn't like him, Pep would be sending him out on loan or getting rid of him. Pep wants a smaller squad this year, so he won't be playing as much Pep roulette as he was the previous. The other thing to consider, though, is it's a World Cup year. Mm-hmm. English players are going to want to get on that plane because they, as much as I hate to say it, have a genuine chance of winning the World Cup next year. Foden will want to be on that. Foden will want to be on that plane. He will play out of his skin to make sure he is on that plane. And there's enough of English players in the Premier League who could potentially usurp his squad place. So he will play his whole off to make sure he's on that plane.
See, the thing is, you've also got the likes of Rashford on loan at Barcelona. That's why he's there for this year.
Yeah. So you've got to take that into account. So Foden plays it. For me, that front 4 is Haaland up top. You've Marmouche on one side, you've Cherky on the other side, and you've Foden roaming around behind Haaland doing the business.
My problem with City, and where I was going to say avoid, was City wingers. Any winger. If you're Cherky, if you're Reiners, if you're Marmouche, if you're Savinho, if you're Doku, if you're Bernardo Silva, do I continue? I'm sure there's more that I am missing in terms of their out wide players. Pep Roulette starts on the wings.
Yes.
Leave a City winger at home. Don't go near them unless you're sure, absolutely sure, because of an injury or something, that they're in the team.
There's 2 places that Pep Roulette really, really hits home, and you're right. One of them is on the wing. The second one is in central midfield. That kind of holding place. And you've named Kovacic, who did well last year, absolutely. Gundogan did okay there. Nico Gonzalez is in there. Nunez can play in there. Oscar Bob is going to be back, and he can play in there. And Pep does like to bring on a young English player into the squad. Rico Lewis was at right back, but was pretty poor fucking playing midfield as well. There's enough of options in the middle there. Bernardo Silva will probably drop back into that role as well. There's enough players there that was continually rotate.
That's what they bought your man to Johnny Reiners for.
Reiners as well from AC Milan. I forgot about him.
Like, I don't like City wingers, because I think that's where the problem starts. I would look at the players I'd be looking at would have been Ait Nouri, Ruben Diaz, because he's back up, he's back firing and fit again. He was injured last year for the whole year. He's fit, ready to go again. Solid centre back, and outside it, and obviously Haaland. I think the avoid is the wingers. Look, if you're later in the draft and you want a player, and you I'd rather have a Doku in my side than not. You know what I mean? If I'm down at 10th, 11th round picks and beyond, and Doku's available, I think you take him, and then you look to find out and get your and these are the players where you're looking for the team news the week in advance and going, are they in? But they're also in a draft model. They're also what I'd call the tradable players, because I can come to you and go, ooh, do you fancy a Doku? And that is a big enough name to bring you to the table to talk.
Yeah.
It's not me coming at you with, do you want some Dan James? Even though Dan James' numbers might be better. But I'm not coming,
Yeah, Doku is a sort of player who you can properly mess with your fellow league participants' heads. and possibly get someone like a Mateta, for example, out of them for a double.
Jack Grealish being a case in point over the last few years.
Yep.
Perfect player that once if he got in the team, it was like, ooh, do you want to do a little deal? And the City wingers are great tradable players because there's so much fucking rotation on them.
But there's also an opportunity. There's also a chance that Doku plays 5-6 games, does really, really well, and then you trade him, and then he sits on the bench for the rest of the season because we've seen that happen.
Yeah, he could play 6 crackers and then be on bench for the next 8 games or something. You know what I mean? There's ways and means around this, so we're going to see.
I'm going to throw a wild card at you, boys. I'm going to throw a tiny wild card at you because I think there's this thing that happens wherein players come into City and it doesn't work in the first year. I think Guardiola's a great example of that, and I still think that if he can get his head together, there's very little competition for Kusanov at the back. Don't be surprised if he performs better than last year. I don't think he's going to be anything special, but as a squad player, even the not special ones are landing 6-7 a week in City. Once they're kind of top 11 to top 15, I think if he plays, he might be worth a look. But mostly it's Diaz because he's got the armband.
Yeah, I think Kusanov. It's if that's the problem is if, and I don't think he does.
I don't see it.
I don't see it there. There's enough of Kanji is there, Aki is there, Stones.
He's on irrelevant now. He's on irrelevant,
but he's still there. And when he's fit, Pep loves him.
I don't think he does.
Diaz is there. Guardiola move in. Do you know what I mean? There's enough of players ahead. No,
he's going to start when it's his partner. It's who's Diaz's partner, and it's going to be between Guardiola.
It's going to be Guardiola,
Kanji, and Ake.
Yeah, it's going to be Guardiola. Or if he goes to 3 at the back, it's probably going to be a Kanji, Guardiola, and Diaz. You know. But yeah.
Well, look, like I said, it's a wild card. It's a squad pick. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he's going to light up the sky. If it's me tomorrow, it's Haaland, obviously. But Diaz, I think, had a lot of really good seasons, took a bit of a dip last year, and I think he's due right back up, which is kind of how I see City as a whole, much as I hate to say it.
There's one player I want to mention before we bounce. You've got your man, Claudio Everechi, looked very, very good in the 2 games he got off the bench at the end of last year, played a few minutes in the Club World Cup. He's good. I'm just going to say it now. If you've got that guy in the league that likes a player that's a flash, do you know, like the Makedas at United, the guy who the young fella traded in. Now, I think there's a player there, but he's very young, so I think this will be the season where he'll get a few minutes at the end of a game, bag one, and then Adino, and likes of Adino will pick him up. You know, keep an eye out for those ones. Pick them up to use them for trades. That's my little sneaky tradey tip as before we wrap. If you see players like that come in, flash in the pan, bag a few very early doors, get them in to get them out.
Yep.
So that's it then, isn't it?
Get them in to get them out. That's it.
That's it. When next we 3 meet, gentlemen, when next we take this battlefield, we will be looking at the
next week we're going to be talking for week 1.
4 days. Liverpool, Bournemouth, 8 o'clock. More importantly, the Saturday, 3 o'clock. Brighton at home to Fulham. Looking forward to next Monday night.
Are you off? We're off doing stuff on Saturday, so that's perfect.
Do lots of stuff.
I'm looking at the fixtures, and there's some tasty matches going on. United, Arsenal on Sunday.
Oh, that's Premier League weekend, lads. What we all need to do is book it off Friday through to Monday Night Football, and then figure out how to exist in work on Tuesday. So that's going to be everybody else's issue. Talk to y'all on the flip side. We obviously have a bunch of articles out here. Keep an eye on the socials because we have news and things are happening and stuff. So y'all keep an eye on the social media channels. Because Jimmy, where can you find all of them?
I get the point wrong every week. Statr draft.com. Link in bio.
Like, subscribe, things. Bye.